I felt so hopeless all the time, and I never ever thought I would get out of that, ever. I thought that I was always going to be this broken person. I thought I was going to be broken for the rest of my life.
When I was 10 years old, I was sexually abused, and as a young kid, that brought so much pain into my life and so much anger. And on top of that, I had this pressure on my life as well to live up to what my parents were and what they've done in their life and what my grandparents have done. So as a young kid, I always had that pressure against me and that anger. So when I got into middle school, I started rebelling against my parents. I started, going against everything they had taught me, right and wrong, and wanted to do everything my way. And when I got to high school, I started partying with the older kids, started staying out late, I started drinking, and at 17 years old, I was introduced to marijuana, and I was instantly hooked to the lifestyle that it brought. It brought me, this feeling that filled that void that I had in my life. I could sell it and make money, and it brought all this attention to me that I had been wanting, because I felt like they needed me. And right before I graduated, I remember one of my buddies had just got into one of their parents' cabinets for medicine and got prescription painkillers, and I tried my first pill right before I graduated, and it instantly had me hooked.
I grew up in a picture-perfect family. It looked like we had everything together. We went to church every Sunday and Wednesday, and we had just like this whole facade going on because my family had like this reputation to uphold. And when I was about 9 years old, my parents got divorced, and I thought this would actually like fix my family and my dad would be, better. But he actually got really like into addiction. So at an early age, I was like influenced by just addiction itself. And so because he was in and out of addiction, he was like extremely abusive. And when I was like 11 years old, one of my dad's friends came in and sexually assaulted me. That was like extremely devastating. But not only was that devastating, I woke up a week later to the news that my father had actually passed away. And so I was in this like nightmare that I could not wake up from. Like that had just happened to me, and I felt so dirty, and I felt so much shame and just constant pain from what had happened to me, because I felt like it was my fault. Like I did this. This was something that I caused. And then, my dad dying, that was just like everything happened all at once, and I couldn't handle it. So that's when my search began. I began looking for something, anything to just make me feel whole, because I just felt empty.
And before I knew it, I was completely addicted, strung out, stealing everything that my parents had. Everything that was valuable was sold. I mean, I did some of the things that I never even thought I would do.
And so when I got into high school, I played sports and everything, but at that time I was just so rebellious that it was hard for me to keep my grades up, and everything just started like falling apart all at once. And I was introduced to marijuana, and of course that was just something to just numb me for the time being until I, felt something again, and then eventually nothing could numb me. Like marijuana couldn't do it, drinking couldn't do it. I was introduced to, painkillers, and instantly I thought that was my solution. But eventually that wasn't enough either, because like my sole problem was that I was hurting.
I wanted to stop every day.
Oh, yeah.
I hated what I was doing. Like most people, they love it because it makes them feel good. I hated it. It made me feel better, but I could not stand who I was the whole time I was doing it. And I hated knowing that the next day I was gonna have to wake up and go through the whole process again just so I wouldn't be sick. And when I didn't have it or couldn't find it, it was the flu. I mean, you cannot move, you're sweating, you're shaking. I mean, it's terrible.
Yeah, it feels like you're dying.
And every single day I wanted to stop
I
it.
never, ever thought I would actually go through the motions through withdrawing because it was just too hard. It was too hard. And before I went to Teen Challenge, I wasn't actually like clean when I got there, you know, because I honestly went to Teen Challenge to get out of jail.
I remember I got there on a Thursday, and our first church service was Sunday, and I had just over those few days in between talked to everybody and realized like this guy was on meth. He was making meth, living in his car, and this guy was doing heroin, living on the streets, and just doing just doing things that I felt like nobody else was going through. And I would look at them and they were all smiling and having a good time, and I remember that Sunday instantly, as soon as he gave an altar call, I was up there bawling. I mean, I hadn't cried in years, like years. I didn't even know I could anymore. Like, I went up there and instantly was bawling, and I remember just like instantly feeling free. Like that was like the moment that set me free from everything that I was going through.
Like when I met Jesus, like immediate, like, because I remember like being at Teen Challenge and being at this church service, and just, it was like my first service, and I was standing there and I was like so upset because I was so just absolutely discouraged and so broken, and I just felt like nothing is ever gonna fix me. I was literally standing there grinding my teeth because I was so mad that my dad had hurt me, and I was so mad that like his friend had hurt me, and I was just so mad. And the preacher said, somebody here is so mad at a man that has hurt them, and like I was like, no way, there's no way. And I ran up there and they prayed over me, and I just felt it fall off my shoulders. I was like, okay, this is what it is. Like, this is salvation. This is freedom from pain and just everything. And so like when I finally met Jesus, that was the day that I was like, okay, this is real, and I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna be okay. And I know that some people will sit there and say, not me, you know, not me. I will never be okay, because that's what, you know, I used to say, no, not me. Because, you know, I had people that were like, you know, I've been through this and I'm okay. And I'm like, no, not me. I won't ever be okay. I won't ever be able to be okay. But, you know, I finally was like, take this, you know, help me. And that you just have to get to that place to where you realize that, you know, yes, he wants you. He loves you. He loves you.
A lot of people will say, if he can do it for me, he can do it for you. But if he can do it for me, he can do it for anybody, because there is no way that I would be anywhere around having to sit and talk about my life or my story. There is no way I would. There's no way that I would have a smile on my face. There is no way that I would do any of this at all. I would not have a job. I would not have anything that I have in my life right now if it wasn't for him.
I'm now just like a happy person, and I don't have to be afraid, and I don't have to live with just all of this guilt and just shame. Like I feel with him, he restored me, and he brought me to the person I am today. And now I have my husband and I have my son, and my life is just so beautiful, and I wouldn't have had that. That was impossible for me to have. It was unattainable for so long until I allowed the Lord to just change my life.
Just surrender to him. I mean, he will literally break down anything in your life and give you so much hope, and people will gain hope off of you as well.